It's a milestone, episode 200 of the Love in Lebanon podcast. In this installment, we go directly to the source and wade into a much talked about topic in our community, water. Mayor Matt Gentry is our guest, as is Citizens Energy Group President and CEO Jeff Harrison. Both men share the details of the Citizens Lebanon Agreement, detailing when the increased water supply will arrive and what that timeline means for future development. Episode 200 is overflowing with important info, and it starts right now.
Welcome to the Love in Lebanon podcast, highlighting all the great things happening in Lebanon, Indiana. Have an idea for an episode? Send an email to loveinlebanon@lebanon.in.gov.
Hey everybody, and welcome to episode number 200 of the Love in Lebanon podcast. I'm Joe LePage, the City of Lebanon Communications and Community Development Director. Full transparency, this was not planned. Joking around with you, Mr. Mayor, before we kind of laid this thing out, it wasn't supposed to come out like this, but 200, here we are, and in a shock to no one, you're here for all the big events, the big episode numbers.
We make the big ones, the big numbers, important ones, right? So it worked out that way.
And let's say this is important to say the least. Bury the lead here. This is a fantastic episode for you to be viewing and listening to, everybody here. Just a whole lot of information going to be coming your way when it comes to water. Water is kind of maybe a big topic around Lebanon. I don't know.
Conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Here on this episode of the podcast, episode 200, we've got Citizens Energy Group President and CEO Jeff Harrison joining us here on the pod, along with Lebanon Mayor Matt Gentry here for episode 200. Jeff, thanks so much for being here, giving your time, and being willing to sit down and chat with us a little bit here on the podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to be here.
And Mayor, thank you again for taking part in one of these episodes once again.
Always fun. Thanks, Joe.
Well, let's get right into it, guys. The overall thoughts and feelings about the collaboration between Citizens Energy Group and the City of Lebanon. When did this conversation first start, Mayor? When did those emails or the phone calls, all those things, when did they start to kind of come to fruition and come to the surface and be real?
Well, from my perspective, this actually predates me. A lot of these conversations with Lebanon needing additional water, that was actually something that Mayor Lewis was working on, right? So I know they had conversations in the past. Obviously, wasn't privy to those, but so when I kind of came in and realized kind of the scope of the challenge that Lebanon had, frankly, the Citizens crew was kind of already read up on it, and they kind of knew what we were talking about. So we kind of had some starts and stops over the last couple of years, but then really, obviously, as the LEAP started to develop and really realizing the need was going to be there, these conversations kind of started to develop and working through, obviously, with the IDC as part of it, too. Kind of shifted over the time, right? Jeff would probably agree with that. But, I think we landed kind of a great spot, and obviously, the agreements have been executed, and, we're kind of full speed ahead, so we're really excited. So that's from the city perspective, at least. I'll let Jeff kind of handle that.
Yeah, Jeff, what happens what happened? You guys were kind of looking for growth and things happening along those ways, and knowing, kind of looking at the headlines, maybe seeing Lebanon being on there. This was on your radar, maybe before it was on mine, certainly.
It has been on our radar. We're always involved and looking to help partner with other communities, and in this instance, we did become aware of potential growth here in Lebanon, and then jumped in and really wanted to figure out how we could help. And so working with the mayor's team and working with IEDC and the Indiana Finance Authority, we're able to come today and really talk about a real, I think, meaningful solution to water here in Lebanon. So, yeah.
And so things get finalized in 2024. What kind of timeline are we looking at now? The good news has happened. The pen has been put to paper. Now the practical, the water is going to be heading our way. Can you enlighten us on the timeline and what that looks like for our community?
Absolutely. So from Citizens' perspective, it's about a 6-year overall time frame. First 2 years, after 2 years, we'll have about 2 MGD, and MGD is the unit of measure when we talk about water, millions of gallons per day. So 2 MGD will be delivered to the city of Lebanon after about 2 years, and then we'll continue on. And then after that third year, year, we'll look to increase that up to about 10 MGD. And then after year 6, that will include the full 25 MGD to the city of Lebanon. And that will entail for citizens really extending. We'll have some main extension projects that we'll deploy to make sure to get the water here. We'll also increase the capacity of 2 of our large treatment plants in our footprint. And then we'll also add some booster stations or increase the capacity of some booster stations to make sure, again, that Lebanon receives that high quality, reliable, affordable water.
And just keep this in perspective, right? Our current system is about 4.6 MGD, right? So this is a significant increase for the city of Lebanon, and frankly, something we've needed for a long time with the growth and knowing it was coming. Just where Lebanon's situated, we know water's going to be a challenge. So that's been great working with our kind of regional partners and with citizens, because they're kind of the water experts. We've kind of been a little bit on our own island here, right? So now we're kind of becoming part of the larger conversation around water. So appreciate kind of their help with that.
And so a 6-year process, Mr. Mayor, and I think in a previous podcast, you helped enlighten and educate folks on the whole water situation. I don't think it was like episode 150 or another, big area or a benchmark to hit from our episode number perspective. But it was one of those things where the way that the water is determined per household and things like that all played a factor. What does this look like from a city perspective now that the agreement's signed, knowing it's 6 years out or so, and then what does that mean for the future development when it comes to residential or commercial, all those things?
Yeah, and I would just say, kind of go back a little bit. So we essentially, in our agreement, we have kind of a point that Citizens has to deliver it to, and then at that point, from Citizens Water, we essentially, it comes into the Lebanon system, right? So they're doing work on their end to kind of get it to us, but then we also have work to do on our end to make sure it gets to where it needs to go within the city as well, right? So we have our own projects that we're working through. Actually, we're kind of putting the RFP out essentially to kind of have how do we manage that process and who's actually be constructing that and building that stuff too. So we have our own work to do as well. They're coming, and we got to make sure we're ready for it as well. And then obviously we have good engineers to make sure those pipes meet up in the same spot. Can't be off by 6 inches. That'd be a problem. So that's something we're working through, and obviously similar timeline, right? So our goal is to have everything done on our side by the time that's ready. So we know that water's coming 2027, and so in that meantime, obviously we've been trying to work through and manage those resources, and Lilly is still ramping up, not using everything they've allocated. So we're kind of working through between the utility board and city council to figure out kind of what's that going to look like in kind of this interim period, so to speak. Those are kind of ongoing discussions still. There's been no action taken yet on that. That's something we're working through to figure out how we kind of make sure our current water supply meets all of our users' needs until we can have the additional water come from citizens.
So we're not going to be looking and waiting for the water pipeline to be coming our way. There's some work to be done here to be able to collaboration.
And also I think we want to maximize our resources, right, and make sure that we don't want to obviously we kind of had to have the moratorium in place until we had the agreement in place, and obviously now it's coming. Do we kind of lift that or figure out kind of reconfigure how that's kind of allocated? A lot of those are technical questions that we have to kind of work through, and frankly, some of them are going to be development questions and timeline questions. Because some projects take a year to build, right? So if we know they start in 2026, by the time they're ready for water, the Citizens of Water will be here too, right? So some of that's kind of the give and take there that we'll kind of work through and work through some of those projects.
Everybody, we're talking with Mr. Mayor Matt Gentry here. Also, Jeff Harrison. He's the Citizens Energy Group President and CEO here on episode 200 of the Love and Lebanon podcast. And Jeff, from a citizen's perspective, you guys did a great job of kind of having Lebanon its own website to be able to look and become educated with how this process is going to lay out. And I'll put the information in that link, everybody, in the body of this podcast. But this isn't your first rodeo. This isn't Citizens' first rodeo. There are other communities that similar agreements have been agreed to, and the relationship that you guys have had with other communities is not unique. I think that helps in this process with Lebanon, and I'm guessing it has for you as well. How have you seen that collaboration be beneficial in years past?
Yeah, so I'll start off just a little bit with Citizens Water again. So we have about 350,000 retail customers here in Indiana.
So a little bit more than Lebanon.
just a few. Just a few. And then we also have 8 wholesale customers, and Lebanon will be our 9th. And so this isn't our first rodeo. So we've learned over the years how to collaborate with city leaders like the mayor, and then also plan and collaborate with them as they begin to grow, as Lebanon is here. And so that's what we plan to do here with Lebanon as well. We'll take the mayor's lead or his designee, and we'll work with his staff. And as you heard earlier from the mayor, that there are things that are going to be done on the Lebanon side, the Lebanon system. We'll be working with those engineers as well to help make sure that we're all doing the same thing, that our timelines are all in sync as well. But we'll leverage what we've done historically here in Lebanon. And I'll say, too, that each community we found is unique. They have unique needs. And so we need to understand those. And we'll be listening, understanding, and then taking the lead from the mayor or his designee with respect to a number of different things. But happy to be here and happy to serve. We've been very delighted to work with the mayor and his staff and look forward, again, to what I think is a meaningful partnership here in Lebanon. We're already in Boone County, and we serve Zionsville, for example, is a community that we serve. We also serve at a wholesale level, Whitestown, Indiana, just to the south. And so, again, a lot of experience here already in Boone County, and we know the area some, but again, we'll look to know Lebanon specifically, their specific needs, so that we can, again, meet the needs of the mayor and the community.
Yeah, and that's got to make you feel good, Mr. Mayor, to know just our neighbors to the south, a lot of those families and kiddos go to our schools already collaborating with citizens to get water service, and it's not at the creation of the wheel or the reinvention. It is something that's kind of, let's play that song again, that keep the same blueprint and move forward.
Yeah, and really it speaks to citizens' role as kind of the regional, I gotta say, powerhouse supplier for a lot of communities, right? Water is a unique thing in Indiana, right? We have a lot of water in Indiana, but it's not all equally spread around, right? So, other communities have had to solve this problem, and they've found great partners in Citizens. And so I think Lebanon's excited to be the 9th partner now with Citizens on this stuff and ready to move forward and help us solve, frankly, a problem we've known that's been an issue for a long, long time. I actually recently saw an article, I think 100 years ago, where the mayor, they dropped sticks of dynamite down our old city well to try to get to go deeper to find more water. It did not work, unfortunately. But, so something we know it's been an issue for a long time. So frankly, it's been really exciting for me. I come in, I have my BHAGs, my big, hairy, audacious goals, and one of them was additional water supply to Lebanon. And so getting that kind of checked off the board for me has been really exciting and frankly, I think monumental for what it means for the future of our community as well.
Jeff, sticks of dynamite not being implemented to look for future
old process.
That's not a technique that we deploy.
But it has been, and you mentioned your predecessor. I was in a meeting once, and it was a coalition of mayors, and Mayor Brainerd was talking about Carmel needing water, and that was in the discussions of when Mounds Mall up in Anderson, they were looking at creating a reservoir up there because of the water situation. So it's been a long time.
Yeah, I mean it goes back even 2014. I think was the first Indiana Chamber or the Indy Chamber study about the water. So it's been on people's radar, and it obviously Citizens has done a lot too in the meantime of upping their system and kind of addressing some of those things. But it doesn't change the fact, too, that they know that there are areas that are less water secure than others, right? And so having the support and help from citizens to solve this and frankly, able to move resources around their system, I think is beneficial to them. So I think if we figure out a solution that's kind of a win-win-win for everybody, which has been a really great collaboration for us.
And part of my job is social media. And so anytime we post anything, usually it somehow veers to water and the shortage of water and how do we have enough water for this, that, and every other thing that is shared on our social media platforms. Jeff, you can kind of help us out here. There's kind of a sky is falling mentality, and we were able to sit in with the Citizens team and be able to get educated ourselves about how that may not be correct of how there's a shortage of water within our state and our area, all those things. Can you help enlighten us about the water supply overall in our region and what that looks like many, many years and decades down the road?
Absolutely, yeah. So at Citizens, we really focus on what we call a long-term water supply plan. And so we're looking out many years, and in fact, we look out 50 years into the future to understand who needs the water and then what sources of water we should use to meet those future needs. And it's a very intense process. We do this every single year. We're focused on it every single day. And part of that water supply planning process includes looking at our entire system, which will now again include the city of Lebanon, but looking at all of our retail customers, all of our wholesale customers, and we look at them even under a scenario where there's a drought. And our goal then is to become drought resistant or drought proof. That's our goal. And so as we look out then over the 50 years, we have a drought-proof plan. And so when Lebanon came onto the table and wanted to become our 9th wholesale customer, we went to our 50-year water supply plan. We looked at our resources and we said we have enough water to supply to Lebanon and also meet our own customers' needs. And so that allowed us to comfortably then reach an agreement with Lebanon to supply 25 MGD and meet their needs while also meeting the needs of our own customers. We've done really just a number of projects since we took over the assets of Citizens Water, including building a new reservoir. So we had 3, now we have 4 since 2020, and we built the Citizens Reservoir. And the Citizens Reservoir, to give you an example of the magnitude of some of the changes that we've made, all of Geist Reservoir holds a little over 6 billion gallons of water. We built the Citizens Reservoir directly adjacent to Geist near 116th and Oleo Road. And that Citizens Reservoir holds about half the capacity of Geist. So again, a huge increase in terms of our ability to provide drinking water to central Indiana. There are a number of other projects that we've initiated with equal magnitude to our system. We can even transfer water from one system within our system into another. All again, that allows us both flexibility and volume to meet the needs of both Lebanon today and in the future, and to meet our own customers' needs today and in the future. So we're really, I'd say, well positioned again to make sure that we have enough water here in central Indiana to meet all of our customers' needs. And then also, again, should Lebanon want to take on more growth, we could meet that growth as well. So
now that was a conversion of like an old quarry, wasn't that? Is that what that's? I'm trying to remember that.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, okay.
We saw a big hole in the ground, Mayor, and thought, we wonder what they're going to do with that.
It's a big bucket. Let's fill it up.
That's a big bucket. That's exactly right. Let's fill it up. And
Put some dynamite in it.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
They did use dynamite.
Well, see, there we go.
They did. I
Bringing
stand
it back
corrected.
around.
I stand corrected, Mayor. You want another job?
But that's reuse of that area and being able to have that just be able to pay dividends in the water supply. That was one of the things that really stuck out to me and being educated myself, thanks to the Citizens team for that, was the larger regional supply that continued to kind of gather assets to be able to, like you talk about, Jeff, being able to have not only this year's needs met, but next year's and the years beyond,
Exactly.
and then 50 plus years out.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been a real benefit for us, and again provides us with flexibility as well. When we think about our long-term water supply plan, we even have, as you mentioned, the Mounds Reservoir up in Anderson. That's on our list. It's a possibility, and so it just goes to show you again the depth and breadth of what we're looking at when it comes to water supply. We're leaving no stone unturned. Everything's on the board, and as they become available, then that's when we'll execute on those projects.
Now, as we kind of round the final turn here, guys, and we appreciate you being here on the podcast. Everybody, we're chatting with Lebanon Mayor Matt Gentry, also the president and CEO of the Citizens Energy Group, Jeff Harrison, here on episode 200 of our Love in Lebanon podcast. We appreciate you being on for this episode and listening to us. What can folks expect in Lebanon as this whole thing is happening? So, Mayor, you talked about some things that are going to be happening from Lebanon's perspective to kind of prepare and the landing of that collaboration with Citizens, and then Citizens obviously coming our way in very physical fashion. What can folks expect once these things happen? We know it's what's being built out of the LEAP project. You can kind of see as things are going now vertical and then some out there, a lot of things, moving parts happening and will continue to do so. What can folks expect those moving parts to look like here in our community, Mr. Mayor? First off?
From a city perspective, I think you'll see a lot of, you'll see some work. You'll see some, guys out in high-vis vests and trenches, upgrading, adding more pipes. Certainly something you learn as mayor, not knowing a lot about water before I came in as mayor, redundancy and loops are really important, right? So, I actually think we'll see improved service too, because we're actually able to build a lot of these additional loops and supplies within our own system to make sure the water gets to where it needs to go. But what that will do is help kind of isolate some end of the line type water usage as well. So it helps kind of build that redundancy and build that additional, pressure, things like that will actually probably see a bit greater benefit to our citizens with that. So you'll see like a lot of construction, a lot of the bigger pipes are going to be kind of newer areas, right? So you won't necessarily be as impacted in neighborhoods, but I think there are certain trunk lines I think we'll be improving within town as well. So you'll see some of that, but really, from a financial perspective, you won't see really a change from a financial perspective because the way the city structured this with the Indiana Finance Authority, IFA, the users in the LEAP districts are essentially paying for all this infrastructure costs, right? So in the past, that was always a huge burden for our citizens of, if we want to go to Connect Citizens just as a city ourselves, it gets confusing with citizens in both.
Residents.
Residents for the city. We would have had to shoulder that burden, right? So back when we were talking, pre-LEAP, it would have seen our utility bills, I think, double or triple, right? So just because of the infrastructure cost is so expensive, and Jeff could touch on that, but this is not cheap stuff, right? And so if we didn't have the development of LEAP that are helped create that tax base, create those users, create that base load usage, it would have been a huge burden on our residents, right? So I think we've been able to kind of piece this together that it's the best of both worlds because we're getting the infrastructure upgrades, we're getting the improvements to our system, we're getting the water supply without burdening our current residents of the town, which I think was a huge thing for me and something that I wanted to make sure that we protected. And I think Jeff had a similar approach with his ratepayers as well, that they didn't want to burden. So we've been able to kind of leverage this, everybody together, make it a win for everybody. And I think that's been the biggest thing. But I think we'll see a lot of benefits and really no negatives.
Yeah, and that education piece was one that you, on the podcast previously that you were on talking water, I think it was to start this year, but it was our rates won't be going up and you don't have to worry about our faucets not having water, that type of thing, because that was actually said, and that was a worry on social media, was the fact that, oh geez, I got to pay for the water that's going out to Lilly or to Meta, all those things.
Yeah, no, they're going to be paying for your water. It's actually the scenario, yeah. So.
And Jeff, I'm guessing that was important for you guys and citizens as well to not burden the citizens of Lebanon with what was going to be taking place.
That's exactly right. And it's one of the, I think one of the highlights of this program, the Citizens to Lebanon Water Supply Program, is to make sure we had a goal. We wanted to make sure that we didn't burden our existing customers as well, and that there was no impact to their bill, their cost. And so we were able to achieve that as well. So I think it's a great outcome for both Lebanon and for Citizens Water and Citizens Water customers. Just a tremendous outcome there. And again, we can't talk about this without mentioning the Indiana Finance Authority and their help in that program that's specifically designed to help individuals in our positions really bring to fruition meaningful projects like this. These are significantly impactful. And so again, I think a high level element and just highlight of the agreement between the organizations. And so from an impact standpoint too, we think that there shouldn't be a whole lot of impact. You may see us on the side of the road as you drive up this way.
Those attractive vests.
and those attractive orange vests you can buy on Amazon likely. And again, we'll be working with the mayor and his team, making sure that if there are any problems, we would like to hear about those, and then we'll reach out to correct those. But I think by and large, there shouldn't be a huge impact to the Lebanon community here, other than again when we finally deliver water to the city gate.
Yeah, and I'm sure that there are social media platforms and things that will be utilized by citizens to kind of help educate along the way as this process is going. I know it's something that a story we plan on telling through our own local channels as well. If people want to learn more information, everybody, I'm going to put, like I said, the hyperlink. Just got to click on it, and there are videos, there are pictures, there are referencing points that you can kind of get the facts and figures that both Jeff and Mayor Matt were chatting about in this podcast, to be educated, to be able to kind of keep tabs on the process and being able to learn more as this thing goes forward. And there are plans, I'm guessing, for maybe the 10th collaborative community one of these days, but you guys are planning for that type of thing as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
Guys, appreciate you being here on the podcast for episode number 200. Should have brought in a cake or had
what the heck, Joe? Come on.
Balloons, confetti, something. Water bottle. Hey, we got water bottles.
We do.
Pun intended, full circle. Take Take us.
Well, I just want to say thanks for coming, Jeff. We appreciate it. You're a busy man. I'm pretty busy too, but you're probably even busier than me. So we appreciate your time to pop up here to Lebanon. and chat
Honored to
about
be
this stuff.
here and honored to serve. Thank you again. Appreciate the partnership.
And maybe it wasn't painful enough, or Jeff may want to come back one
Yeah,
of
we'll
these
see.
days during the
Absolutely,
process.
yeah,
Absolutely,
yeah.
keep
Come back
tabs.
for an unveiling.
Everybody, we appreciate you listening to this episode of the Love and Lebanon podcast. More episodes are coming your way soon. Take care.